Science on Surfaces.
So welcome to this podcast. Today we will talk about structure and how this can help us free time and get in control of our schedule. And not only that, structure can also make us happier and perhaps even make us live longer. So in this episode, we will get some tips, tricks, and tools on how to start structuring our work. So today's guest is an expert on structure, David Stiernholm, who is Struktör. And David helps people and organizations become more efficient by creating better structure and order. So welcome, David.
Thanks.
Great to have you here.
Yes, yeah. Thanks for having me.
So struktör, that is the Swedish word for someone who structures things, yep. Right? Mm-hmm. And you could possibly be the only one with that professional title.
Yes, I will guess so. I came up with the word, so that's probably right.
Yeah, only one would think that the need of these kind of professional structurers there is big need for you guys.
Yes, definitely. Yes, in this day of age.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe now we will have more eventually of you.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Some more of us. Mm-hmm.
So structure. Yeah. What is structure?
Well, I have, of course, given this some thought, and I would say that structure is the decisions that you've made about how to do things in a hypothetically optimal way, the best way that you can think of, and it is also the tools that you've chosen to use to do these things. And to me, structure consists of three major areas where we can fine-tune our work, and the three areas are organize. And in this area is included how to keep track of everything we have to do and how to keep a good order among our documents and to handle the constant inflow of information such as email and chat in a systematic and less overwhelming way. The second area is focus, in which we can fine-tune how we prioritize and how we get rid of the distractions that we so easily are exposed to. And the third area is automate. The more we can simplify the things that we have to do and the tasks that we are responsible for, the more time we get for the most important and the most interesting tasks. So there's plenty of things that we can do to simplify our workdays through structure.
For sure. And so I'm thinking then, what aspects of our work should we structure? Or maybe it's not only work, it's also life.
It is also life, of course, if you want to. I mean, structure is not a purpose of itself. Structure, the intention or the benefits of having structure is what's important, of course. Structure has to fill some kind of need that we are struggling with. And I would say that we should or could structure the aspects of our work that we want to run as smoothly and swiftly as possible. All the things that we want to get done as easily as possible. That we don't want to reinvent every time that we have to do these tasks. There are great tasks to use to apply some structure on.
So, as an example, what could it be?
Well, if you, it could be how to handle all your emails that you receive and process and reply to and write every day, all day for some of us.
Yeah.
That is something that you do plenty of times, and everything that you do plenty of times, many iterations, you can optimize in some way. You can fine-tune and get it done in an easy way or less. A way that takes less energy or whatever is important to you. It could be the monthly report that you put together, or all the meetings that you have, all the podcast episodes that you record. You do them. Yeah, I'm sure that you have a well thought through structure in how you record these podcast episodes. I mean, that it's evident. So everything that we are repeating that we want to get done in a as easy way as possible. That is something we could structure, I think.
So what would you say are the benefits? I mean, we save time.
You save time, but time is not everything. I mean, with good structure, you don't have to work so hard. Things get done more easily.
That's good.
It is good. I mean, we have plenty of things to do anyway. And there are tasks that we don't want to structure, but that we want to use our energy for, and to use that we really want to focus on. And then there are all the other tasks that we just want to work. We want them to just get done as automatically as possible. So things will get done slightly more possible, or slightly more automatically, or even entirely automatically if we structure them. You can spend less effort on doing things if you have created a good structure for them.
So it's basically optimizing how you're using your time as well,
yes,
and
definitely.
be more efficient.
Yes. Yeah. It is.
So, I mean, where would you start? You mentioned these 3 parts: organize, focus, and automate.
Yeah.
So if we want to start with this now, where would you start? What would you do?
Well, most of my clients, they start with the organize area and the work in the organize area, because they come to me and seek my help because they are overwhelmed. They feel that they are not in control of their work situation. They are stressed. They have a hard time prioritizing among all the tasks they have to do. So, and the first step that the majority of my clients take is to collect all notes of what they have to do into one single place, one single list. And because, I mean, that's the obvious start in some way. You have to be able to see everything that you have to do, everything that you have to prioritize among. Because some of the stress comes from that you are not in control. You feel that you are not in control. You have things to do on your mind and in your email and on notes spread out on your desk if you have a desk. And it is really hard to not having an overview of everything you have to do. You are not in control, and you are in constantly worry that you have missed something, that you should have done something else with your time than what you're doing right now. So to get a grip on your situations, you need to collect everything in one single place. Okay, so that's the first step, is to collect all your to-dos in one single list. Yes. And then, I mean, that's a fairly easy step. It depends on how many different lists you have. It might be harder than one might think. I mean, just collecting them all, that is one thing, but then you have to choose where to keep this list. I mean, it could be a paper list, of course, but today most of my clients, they choose a digital list of some sort. There are plenty of digital tools for keeping your lists, of course. In Office 365, the platform that most of my clients use, Microsoft has the new to-do function, the new to-do service or to-do app. And I think that's an excellent choice. But there are other apps, of course. So you have to collect them in the tool that would suit you, depending on what infrastructure you're working in and how your work situation is, basically. And you have to establish a way to use this list, so that this is not just a single event one time that you collect it all, but you need to keep this list as a living tool that helps you every day. So it should be maintained, and you should maintain it, exactly. As long as you realize that you have to do something that you won't do immediately, you get assigned a task in a meeting or something like that, you have to add that to your list, so that you don't have to keep things on your mind, but you can use your mind for more interesting things, for product development or research or what you are your profession.
So is this sort of the to-dos within the organized segment, or
Yes, they are definitely.
So is this all in the organized? That's what I'm saying.
That's not all.
That's not
just
all.
the beginning.
Okay, I was like, oh, it's like one thing you need to do, and then you can move on to the focus. Okay.
No, you have to do. You can do more things. I mean, we talked about a list of everything that you have to do, and by this I mean the small things, the short tasks, the tasks that are shorter than a workday each. So you want to check things off more than once every day because it feels so great to check things off. So then your to-do tasks need to be shorter than a workday. Okay. But then you have to establish some kind of overview of all the other tasks, the large tasks or the projects or the reports that you are about to write that takes weeks or months or even maybe years to complete. You have to see them somewhere, because if you only focus on the short tasks, you easily only focus on the short-term tasks, perhaps, and you forget to work as much as you need on the large tasks and the large projects that you need to work from time to time to be able to keep your deadline. So to create some kind of project overview or some kind of overview of all your large tasks, that could be another step to work on within the organize. And then they need to create some order when it comes to how they store their documents, their paper documents, of course, but definitely their digital documents. They are also easy to spread out in many different places, and you don't find the document that you need right now, or that version that you need right now.
So organizing the to-dos and organizing the information.
Information, yes.
I guess you could say.
Organizing the inflow of new information.
Right.
Because that's the last part of the organized area, if we speak in those terms. Because we are increasingly exposed to inflowing information. I mean, we all have email, and we have had email for years, but the chat services such as Slack and Teams, for that matter, are increasingly used in most organizations. And then we have other inflows with direct messaging in social media and in other project management tools. And I mean, every tool has its own direct messaging service, right? So there are plenty of inflows that we need to monitor. And it is so easy to feel overwhelmed. So we need to establish some kind of systematic process that concerns how we handle these inflows, so that we can feel that we are in control of our work situation, and that we can take care of everything that we need to focus on.
Yeah. Okay, so organize and then focus. What's the next?
Focus consists of two parts. First, prioritizing, and second, distractions and how to focus in spite of all the distractions.
So how would you prioritize? You already touched upon that a bit, to prioritize among short-term, long-term, or that can definitely be a challenge. It's easy to prioritize. I mean, it's easy at least to dig into the ones that are easy to cross out from your to-do list.
Yeah, exactly. So
I feel it.
Okay, that's excellent. That's an excellent observation. So if it's easy to focus on the things that we can check off quickly, if we need to get long-term tasks done, we need to remodel them into tempting short-term tasks.
Right.
So that we are tempted to work on them even if the deadline is years away. So we need to, or we could, I mean, there are plenty of ways, of course, but we could divide this long-term task deliberately into smaller tasks and do that often. So let's say that we need to, every week, define the next small, doable, check-offable tasks that are part of the huge project that we're working on. Then we need to see these large projects. We need to get reminded of that we have these large projects among all the other projects. We need to have the project overview that we talked about earlier. And then we need to define, okay, what will this week's tasks be? Or at least the next task. We might not have time to do these tasks this week, but what are the next tasks, the next single task or next 3 tasks that we need to do in order to move forward on this huge project.
Would you, I mean, if you have a big project, would you then, when you start planning your work, would you split it into like 50 subtasks, or will you do it?
Oh, it depends.
It depends. As you go.
Yeah, it depends. Because it depends on whether you can predict how the project will look like. Right. I mean, if it's an explorative project, you might not be that good at predicting what all the 50 or 500 tasks are. If you then guess immediately when you begin working on the project, you might make a mistake. And you might define 50 tasks and 49 of them are the wrong tasks. Yeah. Which you realize when you have completed the first task. So if the project is an explorative one, you might be able to define some milestones. I mean, you can at least predict with some certainty a few milestones, and then you have to define the next task often in short. You have to define short sprints to work in perhaps. But if the project is a long one and you have completed such projects before, you could probably more certainly predict, or more correctly predict, what the project would look like, and then you could define more tasks from the beginning. So it depends, I would say.
Yeah, there was another interesting thing that you mentioned, that you should split it into smaller parts. Yeah. And they should. You also said something about that they should be fun, or I don't know, inspiring. I don't remember which word. Tempting. Yes, tempting. Because that can also be a challenge, that you do the things that are most, at least fun or interesting or tempting to do. Like you tend to maybe linger on those more, tough tasks. So then I guess you will have to, if you can trick yourself into doing even those less fun. Yes. Do you have an approach for that, or?
Well, I have some approaches because we need plenty of those. At least I need plenty of those. Yeah. Because I have some boring tasks that I have to do that I cannot automate, but they really need to get done. So what do I do? Well, it is a plus if I can make them more tempting. So I could, for instance, rearrange how my workspace is, how it feels like to work there. I have a large bean bag here. You don't see my bean bag, but I can perhaps show you my. That's a bean bag. Yes. So I have a bean bag. When I'm about to do boring tasks, I sit in my bean bag instead, and I feel more relaxed, and it's not that strict, but more. That's one thing that works for me. What also works for me is to use a simple method that I found on a blog 10 years ago, perhaps. There's a blog called lifehacker.com, a classic blog within this field. I found this method that that is named 10 plus 2 times 5. So that you have 10 plus 2 within parentheses and then times 5.
So that's an hour.
It is an hour.
Yes.
Exactly. So you work 10 minutes, and you set an alarm. So you work on the boring, hideous task for 10 minutes. You will be able to work for 10 minutes on a boring task. And when the alarm sounds, you have to stop. Then you get to work to do whatever you want to for 2 minutes. Check Facebook or something else.
So you're bribing yourself, basically.
I'm bribing myself deliberately, yes.
Yeah.
And then you work 10 minutes and 2 minutes break, and 10 minutes and 2 minutes break. And just as you mentioned, 5 times this will make an hour. But I seldom manage to do this 5 times in a row, because when the alarm clock for the alarm for 10 minutes for the 10 minutes are up sounds for the 3rd time, I don't want to stop, because
Right.
I've got going, so, and I'm up to speed, and I have flow perhaps. So then I don't take a break. So then I skip the method.
Right. So it's basically you're tricking yourself to get over that barrier in the beginning.
Yeah.
It makes it hard.
Yes.
Oh.
It's every time. I'm easily tricked.
Yeah. That's a nice one. Okay, so this way you can then be tempted to prioritize even the boring tasks if you get to do it this way.
Yes.
So that's
I get
good.
over that hurdle. That's that threshold.
So what about distractions? Second part of focus.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Shut the door?
So
turn off
it depends on what distractions you're exposed to.
Right.
The obvious distractions are notifications, of course.
Right.
Everyone has heard that they should shut off the email notifications. Far too few have done so.
So that's a good place to start to actually do it.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to shut them off or haven't done so already, even if you've heard that you should, maybe you could think of why you don't want to shut them off. Because some don't want to shut them off because they really need to be notified when a particular kind of email arrives. So then they have then they are exposed to then they get a notification for every email instead, and they are distracted. But then I think you nonetheless should shut them off and instead create a rule. You could create an email rule that looks for a keyword, some kind of word that a rule that says that if this word is included in the subject line or in the message, then a sound will sound, and you will get a notification.
Okay.
So then you can trust. Yes.
So there are ways around it, because I could mention that we are recording this now during the Corona pandemic, and so a lot of people are working from home. And so in my case now I have more platforms. I'm working in more platforms to interact with people digitally, of course. And then you may have notifications from different platforms, because you need to be. I mean, you will hear if someone knocks your door, but now. The equivalent of that is someone, pinging you in one of these platforms. So you cannot really turn it off.
No.
So so then distractions are difficult, at least in this situation.
Yes, I guess.
But it could be like, maybe there are ways around it if you say that if this person pings me, then there could be a sound. I don't know if there are rules like that. Maybe there are.
It depends on the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at least in Teams, I think you can set the notifications in a quite detailed manner.
Probably. I haven't looked into it.
No.
And there are quite many functions, like clever functions, in these tools that probably most of us are not aware of.
Exactly.
So are to be explored.
Yeah.
So that about distractions.
That's one distraction. Another distraction, of course, are colleagues.
Yes.
Colleagues that want you to look at something, or they want to ask you something. And of course, we are a team. We work together. No man is an island. But still, sometimes we all need to work undisturbed and undistracted every once in a while. So what you could do is to discuss with your colleagues and agree on a way to signal that you want to work undisturbed right now. And it doesn't matter what you agree on, at least as long as you agree on something. Use the busy status in your chat platform, perhaps, or if you're not working during a pandemic, but you're working at the office, you could shut the door, or you could put on headphones, or create a sign, a paper sign that everyone uses to just signal that they want to work undisturbed right now. Because we need to agree on something. We can't just guess what will be evident for the colleagues, because we are different, and so we need to discuss this. And everyone needs to be to work undisturbed every once in a while. So it's easy to get an understanding for that you need to close the door and focus.
Yes, of course. Yes, communication in general. That's a challenge, a different topic, but
it is a different topic. Yes,
you have to communicate what you need and so on, for people to be able to know. So notifications and colleagues, are those the main two sources, or two main sources of distractions?
They are, but also if you're working in, say, an open space open space environment or office environment, and you don't have a door to close, overheard conversations are also very common distractions, of course. And my favorite solution to that is to listen to something, to put on headphones and listen to, not always music, quite seldom music for my I seldom listen to music while working, because that is distracting itself, because I like music and I listen to the lyrics. But instead I listen to synthetic noise.
Okay.
Yes, there are plenty of apps and playlists in Spotify with synthetic noise, and synthetic noise is really useful, I think.
It sounds disturbing, but maybe it's not. It
sounds disturbing. It might sound disturbing the first, say, 3 or 5 minutes, but quite quickly you don't hear the noise. Okay. But instead you are just in your own audio bubble and you can focus. I use it all the time when I'm traveling. When I work on the train next to a fellow traveler who speaks on the phone for 3 hours, which is allowed on the train, of course, but I need to focus. So I just put on my headphones and I listen to synthetic noise, and I'm not distracted. And I don't get angry. I don't tweet passive aggressive tweets about train rides. So I just feel at ease and I'm happy and I get things done.
Perfect. So what kind of noise? Do you have like a noise preference?
Yes, I like the brown noise best.
Brown noise.
Yes, okay. There are there's pink noise and white noise and brown noise, but it isn't brown, but it was invented by Robert Brown, a Scotsman, in the mid 1850s, I think.
Okay.
And I use an app called Noisly.
Okay.
Noisly, noisli.com.
Okay.
Noisli.
Okay, I have to check that out. Brown
yes,
noise.
check that out. I think you'd like it.
Yeah. So the third step, automate.
Yeah.
What can we do there?
Plenty of things, of course, and increasingly many things, because there are plenty of tools that we can use that are underused, I think, automate some of our tasks, or at least some parts of our tasks that make the tasks more swiftly done with less effort. If you use Office 365 as a platform, there's a service called Power Automate. It was called Flow before, but now they renamed it to Power Automate. More catchy, perhaps. That it's like a personal assistant, a robot for you, that is checking everything that happens in every tool on the Office 365 all the time. So you can set up flows that begins with a trigger. Say that you get a new meeting. You accept a new meeting, a new meeting invitation, and that triggers some kind of action that Power Automate does.
Okay.
For example, let's say that you have a problem with that you have far too many meetings, far too close to another, so you don't get to do anything between the meetings. You just run from meeting to meeting. So you need to create some space between meetings. Then, of course, you could, as you accept a new meeting, you could also at the same time add a pre-meeting buffer and a post-meeting buffer for, say, a 15-minute long pre-meeting buffer and 15-minute long post-meeting buffer, and then you won't have another meeting.
Back to back.
So
yeah.
Back to back, yes,
yeah.
Exactly. That's the expression. You won't have another meeting back to back, but then you have to remember to add this buffer all the time, as long when you accept a new meeting invitation. But Power Automate could do that for you. So the flow could be like when you accept a new meeting invitation, it adds these buffers automatically.
Okay, so basically it would prevent you from scheduling a meeting back to back then.
Yeah.
Or essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just one small example of what you could do. So Power Automate can do all plenty of small tasks that simplify our workdays, that make us that help us maintain the structure or the optimized workways that we want to maintain and to fulfill and to working.
Okay.
So Power Automate is a great app and service to check out. If you don't use Office 365, but perhaps you work on the Google platform or another platform, you could instead check out a service called Zapier with a Z. It's the one that I myself use. I'm a Mac user, so I use Zapier. And I think right now I have 48 flows, or 48 things that Zapier helps me with. Small things that makes me save time and effort.
That's fantastic. And this is a great example of what I just said, that there are so many nice features and functions in these platforms and tools that we're using, and most of us are probably not even aware of those. I had never heard of Power Automate. so it's
you would like it, so check it out. I mean, Zapier even pre-writes some email for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's very convenient.
It is very convenient. I mean, I have quite often something happens that means that I have to send an email to a new client. I mean, a new client books a meeting with me, or a session, a coaching session. And then, of course, I want to send an email. And even if I have a personal or genuine relationship with my clients, every time I get a new assignment like that, I want basically to write the same things. So the same things that I nonetheless writes in every email, Zapier can write for me. And then I can write the individual and genuine and personal things instead. So I said some time, and most of all, I save some effort.
It sounds fantastic. So you could, Zapier will do lots of chores for you, and you can instead spend time in the beanbag.
In the beanbag, exploring this fascinating field structure.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So much to explore. So this can be very helpful then. And so these are the main tools for automating tasks and chores. And
there are 2 tools. So. Let me mention another tool, if that's okay, because and it is also about automating some writing. I use a text expanding tool. Text expander. Do you know text expander? No, but that's it's a tool. It's a software, an app that it's available both for Mac and for Windows. And in this tool, you collect all the short or large text that you write often, and you attach a short abbreviation to every text snippet. And then as you write on your computer, Text Expander listens to what you're writing. And as soon as you write this short abbreviation, it expands this into the short or large text that you don't want to spend time writing, but that you want to get rid.
Okay.
And that saves me immense amounts of effort and energy as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like getting it's like installing a turbo in your keyboard.
Yeah.
You write something small and it gets expanded to something large automatically without effort.
Yeah, sounds great.
It is great.
Okay, so we briefly covered those 3 parts of structure: organize, focus, and automate.
Yeah.
So I have a few questions on challenges. It's like one obvious challenge, I think, for people in academia at least, is that, I don't know, maybe, but structure for people in general can have a bit of a negative connotation. And I'm thinking if you're in the academic world, you're supposed to be creative and, think outside the box, and maybe you can feel a bit trapped by structure.
Yeah.
So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, of course.
Is there a risk of being trapped by the structure to kill your creativity?
It could be so if it is a structure that someone else have created for you, and this someone else doesn't understand your work situation and your challenges and your personality. So the structure doesn't really suit you, then you could feel trapped. But but that's not structure's fault. Self-created structure that you have self-chosen structure is more liberating because you create structure to solve the hassles, to get rid of the hassles and solve the difficult parts of your work, to make them easier. And then structure is your best friend. You don't have to structure everything just because even if you like structure, you don't have to structure everything. I mean, I'm a big fan of structure, obviously, but I don't structure everything. There are tasks or things that I do both in my work and privately that I don't want to have structure. I want to work in a chaotic way. When I want to come up with new ideas for things to write about, or about how to illustrate a message that I want to convey in preparation for a talk, for example, then I need plenty of input. I need to be exposed to a chaos of visual inputs in order to get ideas. So, okay, I could have a structure for getting me exposed to these inputs. But coming up with ideas, when I do that, I don't want to be stuck in some kind of structure. So I mean, structure and creativity can be the best of friends. Creativity often, but not always, need to be totally free and liberated. But when you want to do something and create something and make things happen from the things that you have created and come up with, then structure is the way to go, I would say, because structure makes things run more smoothly. The things that you want to create or execute will be executed much more easier if you have a good structure for it.
So if you use it wisely, it's your best friend.
Yes, just like any tool.
Exactly.
You use hammers for certain things. You don't use, even if you're a carpenter, you don't cook with your hammer. I mean, you use another thing. You use a knife and whatever.
Yeah. Then another challenge I'm thinking about for people in academia, or maybe people in general, I don't know, but I know for sure people in academia, is that you can go with the amount of deadlines vary over time.
Yeah.
And also, as we already touched upon, like short projects and longer ones.
Yeah.
So maybe during summer you have no deadlines, and then in fall you have grant submissions, publication submissions, conference submissions, you're teaching, and then like how to balance the workload over the year, perhaps.
Yeah.
It sounds like structure could help also with that.
Yes, I think so.
In the planning.
Yes, it does for me, at least.
So how would you get yourself to work then with the stuff that is away in the future?
Well, you need to see how much time you have left until deadline, and you need to get some perspective on what is about to happen and when it will happen and when things are due. And I think there is a lack of tools for that. Of course, you have your calendar and you have the month view in your calendar, but I think it doesn't work for me. I don't get a good perspective. But what definitely works for me is a timeline. I mean, it's nothing new. It's a timeline. But I haven't found that many digital tools for creating a timeline. I would like to have a timeline where that I can scroll in. That I can zoom in and zoom out. I found one tool. I will mention that later. But what I instead use for myself is sketching paper, drawing paper. Yeah. On a road, really. I can show it.
Yeah. Sure. Yes. Oh wow.
Yeah. So these are my Dead Sea Scrolls.
So for people listening, I should just mention that this is like really a roll of paper. Like a big roll of paper.
A big roll of paper.
And there is a timeline drawn on it.
Yeah. So
with months and.
Yes, with months. Yes, a month is 20 centimeters long.
Okay. So what do you fit in there? Like a decade in that roll?
I don't know. Yes.
Probably.
Oh, sorry. I haven't reached the end yet, so we'll see. Let me get back to you in 10 years. So every Monday at 9, there's a structure for this, of course. Every Monday at 9, between 9 and 10, I sit over there at my reflection desk. I use that desk only for reflection. I don't have computers there. Yeah. Only my timeline and my favorite notepad, a large notepad, and my favorite pens. And then I then I expand the timeline, and then I, of course, look in my calendar and see what deadlines and assignments and talks that I have in the future, and then I add them to my timeline. And I mean, this might seem very simple, but it is really useful for me. I can actually measure how much time I have left. I have 4 centimeters left, which is 2 centimeters shorter than last week.
That's fantastic.
And it works much better for me than scrolling in my calendar.
Okay. Yeah, that is fantastic. That's such an unexpected tool for structure.
Unexpected, but really useful. I mean, not everything needs to be digital these days. Paper has its place.
Okay.
But if you want to use a digital tool for your timeline, I have found one single tool that I think is really great. It's a tool I found at Northwestern University's site. They have a lab
in the US.
In the US, yes, Northwestern University. I can send you a link later if you want to attach that, add that to your
description.
Yeah, sure. They have a lab called Night Lab. Night as in night, a knight in armor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not the knight. Yeah, you understand. And they have created some tools for. I think they have created some tools for conveying. For displaying information in some way. Anyway, one of their tools is a tool called Timeline, basically, and it's and they have an open API that you can use to create your own timeline.
Okay.
Based on a Google spreadsheet. So they supply you with a Google spreadsheet, a template, where you add your deadlines and quite a lot. You can add quite a lot of information actually, and images and links to other files and such. And then you just embed this HTML code on some kind of website, and then you get a scrollable, zoomable timeline that it's really neat.
Okay.
I use that on my site for displaying my upcoming talks.
Great. So this could be one way to then balance periods with chunks of deadlines and periods with no deadlines, and then you can balance up.
Yes, because if you make yourself aware of what is coming up in, say, 3 months, then and if you look at that every week, say once a week, then you can think of, okay, for this deadline that is due in 3 months, what is the next shortest step that is tempting enough that it is probable that I actually will do. It needs to be shorter than a work day. If it is boring, you can get yourself a beanbag to do it in, or whatever makes you motivated. So this is a tool to make yourself aware of your deadlines.
Great. There are so many tools to simplify all these three, parts that you're talking about. Let's see. Looking at my questions here. So you have a lot of interesting and useful material on your website.
Yeah.
And I read, for example, that good structure can extend your lifespan. And you've also mentioned that structure can make you happier.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about extending your lifespan. Why is this the case? Or why would this be the case?
Yes.
Yeah.
I found a study from January 2017, I think, 2 Canadian, if I'm not mistaken, Canadian researchers called Bethany Cockburn and Eric Gonzalez-Muret. They conducted a study where they looked at the correlation between the feeling of having control of your work situation and mortality. And they found that people who feel that they are not in control of their work situation they risk
a higher level of stress, I guess.
A higher level of stress, and they risk the risk for dying pretty much increases.
So that's for sure.
But structure is a tool, as many tools for taking control of your work situation. To feel that okay, it is I who am in control of my work.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like if you can increase your lifespan, that should definitely be like a motivation to be more structured.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Okay, so time flies. A few more things to mention. I mean, we've covered so many interesting things, and there is so much material on your website as well. You've written several books.
Yeah.
I don't know, at least one of them is in English, or are all of them in English?
Yes, I've written 3 books. One of them is in English and Norwegian and Chinese, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's called Structured: How to Overcome Chaos and Win Back Time. It's a training program in 31 steps through these 3 areas that we talked about: organize, focus, automate.
Yeah. So this one could read if one wants to learn more.
Yeah.
You have the free weekly newsletter.
Yes, I do.
And you have a blog.
I have a blog.
Anything else?
Yes, some 2 more things. I have a YouTube channel. Every week I share short videos with practical and concrete tips on my YouTube channel. You will find it if you search for David Stiernholm. And I also have a podcast with I think I have 400 episodes there, short episodes, 5-minute long episodes with concrete tips.
Okay.
So and it's called Done.
Done. Okay.
David Stiernholm Done. If you search for that, you will find it where you find your podcasts.
Yeah, we will add the links to all of this in the description to the episode as well.
Excellent.
So plenty of opportunities to learn more and be inspired, and maybe not start with the whole structuring project, but take bits and pieces and get going. To live longer.
To live longer and be happier.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's what we had for today's episode. So thank you for listening or watching with me, Malin Edvardsson, and David Stiernholm, Struktör. And I would also like to take the opportunity to mention to those of you listening or watching that if you're interested in surface science or related topics, you should check out our blog, the Surface Science blog. Thank you.